Hola amigos, I am Rodolfo Ramos, Bradesco BBI's Mexico strategist, and welcome to this What's What in Mexico, our bi-weekly video product to give you our latest views. So today is a very special day because we are launching our What's What in Mexico on the YouTube platform. So we will have a much more dynamic here communication. Feel free to follow us, subscribe to our channel, and we'll be including links to our reports with much more detail than what we can cover in this short video. So as is customary, I'll be laying out here what we will be covering in this video. And today we're going to be basically talking about our views on Sheinbaum's first 100 days in office. We're going to be covering some of the positive things that we've seen. Secondly, we're going to be covering some of the challenges that we have seen and expect her to continue to see. And thirdly, are just some very brief views in terms of sectors for the equity market. So kicking off with the positives, it was very impressive to see her reaching the 100-day mark with a very strong popular support. She reached a 78% approval rating, which is actually higher than what AMLO closed his administration with of around 60%. So this is a very strong showing, especially since she had to balance on one hand AMLO's legacy, honoring, observing it, of course, and on the other, setting some of her own agenda and priorities forward. So this was a very impressive feat in our view. Secondly, and this is more from the investor perspective side, but we saw her throughout, and this is of course before as well her administration, making very technocratic appointments to her cabinet. And this was in very important areas for investors, of course, and going forward, we expect this to continue. Irene Espinosa's term in Banco de Mexico ended in December of last year, so any day now she should be nominating her replacement, and we do expect someone, most likely a woman, but most certainly someone with the credentials and expertise needed to carry this very important job. We've also seen rumors around the Ministry of Finance potentially leaving. Sheinbaum said that this was not true, but if at some point he does decide to step down, finding a replacement that has the level of expertise and gravitas that Ramirez de la O showed will be very, very important. The second point that we saw investors, that resonated very well with investors was this commitment to fiscal discipline. Of course, this culminated with the presentation of the federal budget for 2025, but this is something that Claudia Sheinbaum decided to continue walking in this direction that AMLO said throughout his administration. The third point that I would mention here is more pragmatic policies on the energy side. I think that there's still a lot of uncertainty around implementation, but she has taken a much more flexible approach, particularly around renewable energies, and this is something that also resonated well with investors and the private sector more broadly as well. Another point that we saw positive in these first 100 days was a market shift in terms of security strategy. So this abrazos no balazos theme that was very controversial during the AMLO administration, is no longer the case. We have seen a much more combative security strategy. We have seen drug seizures. We have seen high-profile apprehensions, and security experts are giving Sheinbaum the benefit of the doubt. So this was also a positive development. Now, moving on to the challenges. I think that the most important one here, of course, is the Trump administration and the posture that he has placed around tariffs. We have seen Mexican government officials very committed to bringing these negotiations forward. We have seen the Mexican government already delivering on fentanyl seizures. We have seen them reviewing the relationship that Mexico has with China in terms of trade. We have seen the government addressing these northbound migrant caravans before they reach the U.S. We have seen, as I mentioned, these high-profile apprehensions. So we do believe that Mexico remains very committed, and that Mexico does indeed have a lot to offer to making the region, but Mexico and the U.S. as well, much more, a much stronger region. So we do see that Mexico has a lot to offer, and we do expect that once the initial volatility is over, the Mexico and the U.S. bilateral relationship will emerge stronger. So this is, I think, the most important challenge that the Mexican government will have, Sheinbaum. The second most important challenge, in my view, will be these Morena's internal struggles that we've seen so far. No, these started in December when senior members of Morena in the Senate and the lower house basically engaged in friendly fire, posing a real governability crisis for Sheinbaum. No, and this is particularly important because Morena basically has a de facto constitutional majority in both chambers of Congress, and there is a very controversial legislative agenda in the pipeline, particularly around labor reform. There is the secondary legislation for autonomous bodies. We also have a potential electoral reform. So these are some of the things that are top of mind among investors, and that these are also very closely intertwined with Sheinbaum also having a strong hold of all of these different members of Morena. No, so these are, I think, the two most important challenges. Finally, here, just to close and to move on to the more sectoral views of ours, we have continued to believe that consumption is the way to play Mexican equities. We have a big exposure there. We also believe that, as I mentioned, the industrial part of the market continues to be attractive. So we continue to be in favor of this nearshoring theme. And lastly, we do believe the construction sector represents an attractive opportunity for investors. So this is what we had for you today. We hope we found it useful, and have a great weekend, everybody. Ciao, ciao.